course, I'm not alone here in our makeshift studio at Nasrec. I'm with Angelo Fick, a member of our panel of analysts. I couldn't help but laugh in between, listening to Nomvula Mokanya trying to explain the nature but also extent of the problem. You would have thought that for an organization that knew a while ago that they were going to have this conference, and as big as she says, correctly, the ANC, is the kinds of glitches she was talking about are things that ought to have been sorted a long time ago. Not even 2 weeks ago.
Absolutely. So 2 things. The ANC is not, in fact, even the biggest organizations. Universities across this country register students in different faculties every year, from a variety of places with all sorts of details required. The Gauteng province, to register your child to get it into its first year of school, is an online system, and that seems to run okay every year. I'm not certain that the story that Ms. Mokonyana tells very well holds together, because honestly, if it's a new system, why would you introduce a new system at a controversial moment in your organization's trajectory?
And especially if your provinces, as she says, many of them, actually didn't
meet or are not using the new system. Why would you insist on the new system? And secondly, one wants to ask, where are the South African satirists? Because they're clearly out of work if this is the level of realism. If at a conference under contention and where security measures are going to be the place, people can grab their tags and run off with them, one wants to ask, surely then all of those issues that she says do not reflect on the party, reflect on what the party says its internal challenges are in January 8th statement after January 8th statement, where it says political education, cadre discipline, these are concerns for the party. Well, if people are grabbing their accreditation at a particular conference and running off with the tags, that's both political education and cadre discipline that is a problem. So I empathize with the African National Congress that this is indeed a difficult thing to mount. But they would surely have known since December 2017 this would be a difficult thing to mount, and so at least get the organizational and administrative processes straight. But this could also be a matter of money, because administrative processes, to get them right, costs money. To get systems that work right costs money. And if you are being picketed by your own workers at your policy conference in July, maybe you don't have the money to afford the best system.
But some of things, I was thinking even about money. My cousin brother is a delegate, and then as they were going to the for dinner, we bumped into each other there, had a little chit chat, and then someone came and said, "You're not supposed to be speaking to a voting delegate," but here are people who ran with tags of an entire provincial delegation, and they were able to do that.
And to run, where were they running to? Because when I worked to get my accreditation,
security
there was
everywhere,
security everywhere.
Police everywhere.
Precisely, you were let in 5 by 5. So it's an interesting version of reality that I can only but take people's word for it. But I do think it reflects on a moment that the party finds itself in, that it's not even able to credibly spin away the bad press that it has created by the actions of its own members. And that we are now at the end of the second day, and we're told things are running on time, which makes one wonder to what extent the substance matters that were supposed to have been addressed in those 8 hours that have lost and been lost, and that the accreditation which took so long, to what extent those substance issues can be covered, or to what extent this is no longer about consolidating decisions made in July, but it's actually only focused on election issues for the top 6 officials, possibly more, and the NEC that comes after it. And that would be a sad moment for the ANC, given the challenges it faces that it has to address by some internal policy changes, and the challenges faced by the country that this party that governs it has to come up with solutions to deal with.
And one wonders whether, in fact, there's somewhere where she says that they then had to redo the cards, and whether they have the kinds of safety features that would then mean that whoever tries to use the old cards to get in and presumably vote, won't be able to do so, because watching earlier as they were coming out of plenary and going to where they were supposed to have dinner, there was hardly any form of control. I bet I could have easily, especially when some of the KZN delegates started singing about change and all of that, the police could hardly, do anything about it. So they ended up just allowing them to stream in. So one wonders whether the other side of this place where those control measures are supposed to be exercised, whether in fact they do actually have the ability or the capacity to do so.
And absolutely, and again, the solution is, when one looks at these tags, they feel as if they're still stuck in 1990. Anybody who's had to work at or go to or attend a university campus knows that you can't get onto campus without an access card that has a magnetic strip that has all of your details on it. And so it's not as if this isn't possible to implement. This business of these, laminated pieces of paper, they're the most easily reproducible things possible, which is why, given that the tags were stolen, they could simply change the color and produce a new batch. But access cards are not an issue that you have, it's not a great technical challenge. Access cards are produced almost every day in this country for universities that have 35,000, 40,000 students. These access cards are sophisticated enough to allow you access to only specific rooms, specific corridors. All of this could have been designed. This is the party, after all, where a minister of the wife of a former minister, was the IT tech person. So to what extent is internet technology so primitive that we have to have one printer producing a color-coded laminated
well,
tag?
we have one computer generate responsible for or taking care of driver's licenses of an entire country. So
precisely, this is silly.
But anyway, well, assuming that indeed they've dealt with all the glitches and they will now, or the process of adopting credentials will be as smooth as Nomvula Mukwanyana says it'll be, whereafter they will then have to deal with some constitutional issues, because among the proposed amendments is that there'd be 2 deputy secretaries, for example, deputy treasurer general, and so on, and they will then start voting for those candidates. Well, it was interesting earlier speaking to all the camps. Everyone claims that they have already taken the conference. I've been looking at some of the videos that are doing the rounds now of people taking videos of the various caucuses where certain decisions were taken, people switching allegiances all of a sudden, and so on. Just what you make of what we've heard, especially over the past few hours.
So I think we've arrived at that moment that Guy Debord predicted in the 1960s, the society of the spectacle. There is a performance and there is a belief that if you perform it, it is real. And so if it's on a screen, it is actually happening. And so if somebody declares that they've won the conference before the voting has even begun, the assumption is that if this thing circulates out there, it'll be true. And no bureaucracy can work that way, and the ANC has to be a bureaucracy. So the question remains, if these people are all claiming that they've taken it, what will be their response as so-called disciplined cadres of this movement when the response of the voting outcome does not match at least 3 of those 4 claims? How will they respond to this? Will they delegitimate the process? Will they accept that what they had said was bravado and rhetoric and propaganda and wasn't actually true? Or will they go into an existential crisis and further internal fighting because people said they would do something and then didn't do that? And this is, I think, the difficulty of a party in which all of these processes are left to the last minute. Because again, this is about bureaucracy and you have to plan much in advance for this. And these failures that are now being reduced to spectacle speaks to how the very discipline and political education that should make up the core of an organization, where these kinds of events are the periphery, that has shifted. And what was the periphery, the spectacle, the performance, the marching, the singing, now seems to have displaced the core. And the question is, can those incumbents and those who may have desired to enter the NEC return the call to one of substance rather than to reduce it to continuous performance and kind of, shall we say, spectacle? Because you do not win elections on spectacle alone. You have to win elections on some kind of substance. And if you hollow out your institutions, if you hollow out your party's structures, your party's leagues, your party's processes, what you risk is not being able to mount a convincing election campaign. And however much you may have won this particular battle in your party, you may not win that other battle, which is to keep the party in power at the next general election.
Angelo Fick, let's leave it there. For now, thanks very much for your time. Member of our panel of analysts, Angelo Fick. Of course, at SABC, I mean, we will, in the next hour, top of the hour, interrogate further some of the things that we are hearing right now as the conference moves closer to that election of the top officials of the ANC, a very contested one at that. But for now, I'm going to leave it there, hand back to you till we talk again, top of the hour.
Thank you so much, Voyo. And of course, we will return to Voyo for the latest of what is happening in Nasrec. Everybody pretty much watching as the clock ticks to see if major developments will be in the offing. And of course, the major developments being the issue of the elections. We'll get to that in just a moment.